Hey, welcome back to CrossFit Milford. As always, you've got Coach Jeff and Coach Jay here. We've got a little more information for you this week. This time we're going to be talking about fatigue factors within a workout and perhaps within training. And I know this is a subject and a topic that's kind of close to my heart because I always say that my muscle fatigue really sets in kind of fast, and I want to learn how to change that so I can be a better CrossFitter. But I guess that's kind of the sob story. But we're going to give you a little touches on topics about how to combat that within a workout. As we know, in these open workouts, they tend to focus on similar movers. With this last one with muscle ups and toes to bar, it's a lot of grip, a lot of pulling, and then within training. So I'm going to send it over to Jay to talk about his little opinion on it, maybe how to train through some of these within a workout, and perhaps how to combat this within your training during the year. So Jay, give me some info that's going to help me become a better CrossFitter.
Jeff, when do you say your fatigue factors usually set in?
Immediately, yeah.
So I think the fatigue concept in CrossFit is very broad. And I say that because if you take other sports like running, all right, you have to have good muscular endurance with your legs. You have to build that VO2. If you take rowing, you have specific movements, specific muscles being involved to help you become a better rower. Take biking, again, specific muscles, specific movements to help you with biking. In the sport of CrossFit, there's so much involved in CrossFit that when you look at your training over the span of a year, 2 years, 3 years, you have to take into account every single concept of muscular endurance. And I think where some people get confused and some people get lost inside the training is that they think if they become really good on a rower or if they become really good running, that's automatically going to make them better at CrossFit. And it might have some overlap to that, absolutely, because listen, if you build your engine higher and you increase your VO2, but you're not going to be able to increase it a lot, right? But if you build your ability to teach your body how to utilize the oxygen that it takes in more efficiently and effectively, then yes, you're going to essentially make yourself better. But I think the question comes back to how do you learn how to teach your body how to use oxygen more efficiently, right? And I think from there you get to the point where what sort of cardio and monostructure work you're doing. So monostructure work being biking or running or rowing. And what kind are you doing? Meaning what intensity you're doing it. Because something that people don't utilize is the name of the game in any sort of endurance sport isn't having the biggest VO2, right? But yeah, obviously that helps. I'm not saying that. However, if you have two people who are pretty similar, it comes down to who has a higher threshold. So who can operate at a higher intensity than max heart rate for a longer amount of time. That in itself transfers over to mixed modality work, barbell work. So there's no way that you can say, oh, well, I became really good in a row or something become better at CrossFit. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist. It gives you the potential to become better, but what you have to look at is everything else involved in CrossFit. And then you take into local muscular fatigue, right? And
that's the spot that I want to hear about.
Yeah, so you look at that and you think, okay, well, I could be really good at squatting, so I can be really good at wall balls. I do 200 wall balls unbroken, but I can be terrible at deadlifting 225, even if I have a big deadlift. But what happens if I become really good on the rower, but I'm still really good at wall balls, but still really bad at deadlifting? Well, the rowing's pulling, right? Wall ball squatting, so when that kind of transfer from being good at pulling? Not necessarily. And that also transfers over to upper body, right? So you'd be really good at pull. So I can crush muscle ups and ring muscle ups and bar muscle ups and pull ups, but I can't do any strict handstand push ups, right? And you have that age-old push-pull concept, right? And that's one thing that athletes need to take in mind is when you set up your training for the sport of CrossFit, and you look at that entire year of where you are now and where you want to be and what's happening inside that year, you have to have a good understanding of, okay, do I have a good solid foundation of fitness? Because that's the most important thing. The most important thing for anybody to get started is to increase your general physical preparedness, right? And that's something that we talk about a lot here, is that's what builds upon your internal quote-unquote bank account. So what you can pull from to try to get some sort of reduction. Right now, as you increase your GPP, you then can get more specific with your individualized training. Be okay, do I need to increase my threshold, and do I need to increase my overall aerobic base? How do I do that? Well, monostructure, row, bike, run, right? That's what we're going to do. And once you build that foundation, then you start transferring and you build your skill sets of CrossFit. So you build your skill sets of the lifts, you build your skill sets of the gymnastics movements and your body positioning. Then you transfer into, okay, well now I'm going to work on building my muscular endurance for my upper body and lower body push-pull concepts. And unfortunately with CrossFit, it doesn't end there. Because then you got to think, okay, I now, after all that's said and done, I have to train my ability to be able to do similar movements under fatigue, right? Like power cleans, muscle ups, toes to bar. You know, where you have hip flexor movement, you have midline fatigue, and you have grip form, flexors and extensors.
Which we just saw.
Yeah, and you know that's always going to come. And then you can get more specialized and specific as you get closer to opens and regionals. You know pretty much everything's going to get pulled, right? You're not going to bring racks out. So you can count on, you want to have your percentages of front squat versus back squat should be a little bit off. Meaning you should have in relationship a higher front squat and related. Your front squat's not going to be heavier than your back squat, but in a percentage of balance, your front squat should be higher than the balance, what balance point says, because everything's coming from the ground, everything's front loaded for the most part, right? And then you got to look at the fatigue factors versus upper body push-pull, lower body push-pull, and what might cause you more fatigue. You know, I had one athlete who, if we take two athletes, athlete A has, you know, a 335-pound power clean. Athlete B has a 265-pound power clean. But athlete B can move 90% of the one rep max indefinitely, fast, right? And athlete A struggles, right? So that gives you another correspondence to fatigue factors. You know, we look at the high volume push-pull, high volume local muscular endurance. And then we look at, okay, well now how can you correspond that to a high percentage of one rep max for time? So over the span of the year, these are all important factors you have to look at for yourself and how you personalize that into training to make sure that when you get to this point now, you're not looking back being like, oh man, every time I do pull-ups I get crushed, or every time I'm putting in muscle-ups and with other stuff I'm getting destroyed. You know, it's like you have to put yourself in a position in the beginning part of the year to build the stability and the stabilization and the foundation to allow yourself to now focus on high intensity, high volume without getting injured and putting that stuff under fatigue.
Yeah. So let's say now, can we try to take a step towards translating that into a workout? What is something that someone who, let's say, they're not very good at upper body pulling or gymnastic pulling, but they know that bar muscle ups are coming up into a workout. How should they approach or be aware of what that fatigue is going to feel like, and how should they approach that workout as far as being most efficient and being able to work through that muscle fatigue?
Yeah, I actually want to save your question because as you started asking that question, you gave me another idea.
Okay.
That's something I want to talk about, right? And I think that comes up with the concept of threshold. Yeah. And I talk a lot about threshold in here, and we talk a lot about threshold with our athletes because the name of the game is increasing your threshold, increasing your ability to function at a high percentage of your heart rate for time. So how do we do that with CrossFit? Because we know how to do that running and rowing and biking. We do that all the time in here, right? Okay, we're going to slowly build up to operate between 80 to 90% of your max heart rate, and we're going to work on that for different time domains, different tempos and paces, and different intervals, right? Okay, well that's great because that's monostructural. How do we do that? Just put it in CrossFit. And I think the easiest thing that you can think about is taking that concept where if you know that, ring muscle ups and pull ups on the shoulder fatigue and odd object training makes you fatigued, then you have to do what's called mixed modality training, right? So we might take a couple 10-minute AMRAPs and keep you under your threshold number. So let's say bar muscle ups, your threshold number is 5. Okay, meaning like once you get to 5, your form starts going to crap, and you gotta take longer rest time before you jump up there. So we might put together a workout there. Okay, we're gonna do a 50-meter front loaded carry into 10 wall balls, 3 bar muscle ups, 35 double unders. Okay. So some movement segment that you're never gonna have to slow down and stop, and you keep operating in that specific heart rate zone where you're breathing, you're working hard, but you can still stay under that threshold and keep building it, right? And that's how you're gonna build your ability to maintain and sustain that. And then you can take whatever coupling movements cause you more fatigue and induce more fatigue for you, put them within longer duration periods, and train your body to now build up that volume and workload under fatigue and under stress, right? And you kind of do that throughout the year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I sit here and listen to that, like I start to think back to myself and my training, and obviously the way I train is going to be a little different than some of the higher level guys that are competing for regionals or for the games. But I think of something, let's say hypothetically your athlete has a great threshold and a great VO2, but let's say squat fatigue sets in. So let's say you give them a long AMRAP that has a long row mixed with 15 unbroken hang squat cleans at 95 pounds, not a heavy load, and the heart rate's not jacked up because they can work through that time domain. But being able to do 15 in a row unbroken every set is something that becomes difficult because of muscular fatigue. What would be an opinion on something like that? You understand what I'm trying to?
Yes.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, like you touched on, barbell movements and being able to be efficient that way. The person has great VO2, person has great threshold, but let's say they have lower body push fatigue and they go through 15, they're trying to do 15 unbroken hang squat cleans at 95 pounds, which again isn't a heavy load, it's not jacking up their heart rate, but the fatigue sets in. Maybe on that first set they can get one set of 15 unbroken, but that second set is nearly impossible to do it unbroken, so they have to take extended rest. I guess my question is would that be something that, would you stick in more work of, let's say, squat cleans within your mixed modality work? Would you keep focusing on mixed modality work, or are you still going to change up the training within the...
I think the squat cleans is a tricky one, because you think the squat cleans, you say, okay, what's causing fatigue? So there's 7 different levels of strength. And if you take the squat cleans, you say, well, is it the pull that's causing fatigue because they have poor pull endurance? Mm-hmm. Is it the squat? Is it the reactive strength endurance, right? Is it the muscular endurance, or is it their speed strength? Sure. So there's so many different levels involved in that movement. I think that's where you have to make sure you have a good coach, a good program, where they know how to figure out which one it is. Because strength isn't just strength. It's not like strength, I gotta get stronger, right? There's reactive strength, there's speed strength, there's starting strength, there's local muscular endurance, there's your power component. There's all these different components of strength. So now you look at the body, you gotta say, okay, where are they good at? Because we take plenty of athletes that have great squat endurance with the barbell, but they're a little bit shorter. Mm-hmm. So if you put them on a wall ball, it crushes them. Right. Doesn't mean they have poor squat endurance. They can do 300 air squats unbroken, and they can front squat 80% of their max for like 12 to 15 reps. So you can't argue with me that they have poor squat endurance. But what's causing that fatigue? Well, maybe it's the fact that they got to jump on the wall ball, so that's causing more neurological demand. Or it's the fact that it's that faster eccentric loading of that ball coming down and the height of it, so now it's more of the aggressive eccentric loading is causing fatigue, right? So that's where you really have to get intricate with your athletes and the movements and say, well, what exactly is causing this fatigue? I think the main thing that we want to get across to everybody is that there's so many different levels of fatigue. Don't generalize it with your athletes, and understand the different components of movements, the different components of stress, and the different components of strength, and the different components of aerobic conditioning. And when you couple that all together, being able to look at the movement and look at the athlete and be like, well, what might be causing this fatigue? And then once you figure that out and you nail that down, then taking it a step further and be like, oh, well, now we have to train that. Right? And how do you train it? And you gotta think, like, if you always only stick to one concept of the training, then that's all you become good at, right? So if we just focus on, you have poor squat endurance, so we can do a ton of wall balls. Well, you're gonna learn how to become good at wall balls, but nothing else is squat endurance, right? Because our bodies are amazing organisms that they're gonna learn to adapt for survival no matter what it is. So if I'm terrible at burpees, so I'm just gonna do burpees. Well, cool, then you're only gonna get at burpees. That doesn't mean that if burpees are not coupled with another aggressive eccentric movement of your body, that burpees are gonna be easier. It might fry you even more if you have poor eccentric loading endurance. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So there's a ton involved in this, and I think for the coaches or athletes that have deeper questions, they should definitely email us and contact us. But just keep in mind that the parameters of fatigue factors are very, very broad and very deep when you start peeling them away.
And I think that this, we won't go into this until another time, but I think this brings up another topic of finding a good coach and getting the proper assessment, working with that coach for a couple of weeks so they can test you through different domains and different fatigue factors, because we may think we're terrible at squat endurance, but it might come back to all the stuff that you just said, that in actuality we are pretty good, but coupled with other things. So getting a good assessment, finding a good coach is going to be very important, because sometimes it's tough to assess ourselves. But again, I know that's another topic, and I'm sure we can touch on that again. But I think it's a lot of really good information, and the answer, the short answer is it always depends. It depends on the athlete. It depends on what they need to improve and the stuff that they're working on. So if you have questions, I know this might bring up some because I already have some, and off camera I'm going to talk to Jay about it. But if you have questions, reach out to us. Jeff at CrossFitMilford.com, Jason at CrossFitMilford.com, and don't forget to come join us at competitors.CrossFitMilford.com for best in the world in competitive programming. So reach out to us and hope to join us again for our next video. Thanks a lot for coming, guys.
Thanks, guys.